Unlike Ron, I can store all of my brewing equipment here in this cupboard in my basement. If you want more information about equipment, you can click on the equipment button and it will take you through all of this in more detail. In the meantime, I'm going to ask Pete to take you through the basics while I go clean up the laundry room.
As you can see, we've got all the large items we can be using here today. Our boiler, food grade plastic, 220 volt electric. Our mash tun, 2 buckets, both food grade plastic. Our spigot, our sparge bucket, primary fermenter, secondary fermenter, again food grade plastic. My personal favorite is the cask, stainless steel. We store our beer in there, and more importantly, we serve our beer from there. And finally, overhead in the box, the multitude of little items we're going to be using today. Things like our hoses, our thermometer, and hydrometer. So, I'm going to go out to the brewery, help Doug get set up.
We're going to be brewing here in my laundry room. The great thing about brewing in the laundry room is that if we spill anything, we can rinse it right down the drain and it's easy to mop up. The other good thing about working in the laundry room is that my boiler needs a 220 volt outlet and my dryer has a 220 volt outlet. So I can unplug the dryer and plug in my boiler.
Now Doug's laundry room is pretty small, but as you're going to see, it's more than enough space to make a brewery. Now one thing I suggest, Doug, is before we get out of here, you should get your laundry out so when you go to work tomorrow, you don't smell like you just came from a brewery.
Excellent. And I'll start getting ready to clean and sanitize the equipment. The most important ingredient in beer is clean equipment. There's nothing like getting through a day of brewing and having your beer ruined because some kind of bacteria got into it. And so it's important to make sure that you keep it clean at the beginning and that you keep it clean all the way through the brewing process. What we use for that purpose is a chlorine-based cleanser. It's a powder that you can get at any brewing supplies store. In fact, probably any cleaning supplies store. We follow the instructions that the manufacturer gives. I have this measured out. Get it mixed up a little bit. And be sure to clean all of your equipment. Spoons, thermometers, lids, buckets, everything that comes in contact with the beer. I will rinse them later. And what we'll be using in our next stage is our mashing equipment. Make sure you get the outside as well of the containers. You'll see that the liquid that we use at various times comes in contact with both the inside and the outside of the equipment. So it's important to make sure that you get everything.
What we're going to do now is we're going to grind up some of our grains. Important to start with good quality ingredients. Here we have some 2-row brewer's malt. Notice the grains, nice fresh looking grains. You can buy them ground, and it's useful if you don't have a grinder, obviously, to buy them ground. However, if you do that, buy them in small quantities only as you're using them. Buying them whole like this, obviously, or commonly will save you money, but that's offset by the cost of a good grinder. These brewer mills are ideal. They work very simply. Put it in, mine's a little bit squeaky. Run through. After you run a little bit through, what you want to do is stop, verify the consistency. What you want is some of this to be cracked open, not too powdery, but not still whole. But the majority of them are just barely cracked. And that looked like a pretty good consistency I had on the go here. That's one of the advantages of the brewer's mills that you can pick up at any number of brewer supply places, is you get a very consistent breakthrough of your grains. If they're not totally cracked, then of course the sugars won't escape from the grain. And if they're too powdery, you end up with a bit of a glutinous mess in your mash, and that often will lead to something that is called a stuck mash. Hopefully we won't come across that in our mashes today, but one never knows. The nice thing about a grain mill like this is that you can go through a fair amount of grain in a very short period of time. Not too laborious, not too boring. If you find this a little tedious, one of the options many of these things, these mills will do is you can take the handle off and attach a drill to it. Saves a little bit of manual labor. But nonetheless, to grind up about 3 to 5 kilos of grain takes me maybe 15 minutes. It's not a terrible, laborious chore.